Hello and welcome to the They Say, I Say Effective Strategies for Making Arguments video. So this is kind of an introduction to the concept of They Say, I Say, and some strategies and things that I would like for you to work on in your upcoming paper, knowing that this is something we will continue practicing on and we will add on over time. So this is just the base skill, and over time we will continue to add. So with that, let's get into it. Bye. There we go. Uh, we're creating a dialogue and your voice matters. So one of the biggest aspects of writing is that you have a voice and what you say matters and needs to be told to the world. It doesn't matter what that is. Your voice is important and I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And it's a dialogue because what you say is in response to someone else, and someone else could then in response or have a response to what you have to say. That's what I mean by we're creating a dialogue and your voice matters. So I just wanted to emphasize that here at the beginning. What does they say and I say mean? At a very basic level, they say, I say is the idea that someone else is making an argument. They are saying this thing. And here is how I am going to respond. And that, as we'll get into, can be an agreement, a disagreement, or a mixture of both. But the basic thing that we're trying to get at is that they say this thing, and here is what I have to say about that. So you are taking what someone else is talking about, adding your voice to the conversation, knowing that one day maybe someone will do the same thing with you. You may be the they in someone's they say, I say. So let's look at like a really basic, random, fun example that I made that kind of gets to the point of they say, I say. So, for decades, Americans have worked under the assumption that mass culture follows a path declining steadily toward the lowest common denominator standards, presumably because the masses want simplistic pleasures and big media companies try to give the masses what they want. But the exact opposite is happening because the culture is actually desiring the highest of pleasures, pancakes. In this essay, I will argue. You see what I did there? I just came out and said that I'm Team Pancake. So if you're Team Waffle, apparently that's a big deal. I was learning that this was a heated discussion in past conversations, and so I wanted to include my voice. I wanted to enter the dialogue over waffles and pancakes. Notice how I said all of those things about what you came to find as waffles, what they have to say about waffles, but then I give what I have to say about pancakes. I disagreed with the assertion and I made my claim. You'll also notice, what? Mr. Kerr, you used I in your statement. Yes, I did. I say in this essay, I will argue. And that is to get a point across that, yes, I want you to show me that you have thoughts and opinions and that they are your own. So, I am one of the believers that you should use I, personal pronouns, we, in your paper. I am not against that idea, and I think that anyone that tells you that that's not academic writing, maybe in their mind that's the case, but I know in my mind, academic writing does include I. I know I had plenty of professors at NAU who encouraged me to use personal pronouns because guess who's making the argument? Me, I, you. You get to make that argument, so you get to use those pronouns. So here are some template examples you can use. Although X makes the best possible case for pancakes being better than waffles, I am not persuaded. And then you would explain why. My view, however, contrary to what X has argued, is that blank. According to X's argument, I would point out blank. So I give you these three templates because you'll also notice attached to this assignment in Google Classroom is a whole list of templates and kind of like fill in the blank writing styles that you can use. And I encourage you actually to use these. And you may think, Mr. Kerr, templates seem unprofessional. They don't seem like they should be something that we embrace. And I would say, actually, no, these are really well done and we should embrace these. And then eventually, as you start to learn how you write and what your style of writing is, the templates will become either unnecessary or will have developed into what it means for you to write something effective. So don't be afraid to use those templates that I offer up. All right. One of the big parts of my paper, so the thing that I mentioned in class, is that you need to have a thesis, an argument, or a claim. Thesis, argument, claim. I use those three words interchangeably because they are all interchangeable. So how should I write my thesis, my argument, or my claim? Good question. Don't do it first. What I mean is that you should find a quote from a source, a response to a prompt, or a discussion we had in class that inspires you to write your thesis. I would advise against you trying to write something without having evidence first to help back up any claim you may have. Don't try to write a thesis without having any idea of what your evidence is going to be. Something that I've learned in my years of writing, my years of teaching writing, is that actually it's a lot easier to write a thesis. It's a lot easier to write something when you have something to inspire your writing. So make sure you have a quote and inspiration. And once you have your quote or inspiration to write, now it's time to write your thesis. Where should you start? You need to embrace what they say so that you can then either agree, disagree, or do a mixture of both in order to show us what, quote, I say. So you need to have some sort of claim that someone else is making. So the examples that I used were the waffle thing. Someone made a claim about waffles, but I have a claim, I have something to say about pancakes and how we need to embrace pancakes and that pancakes are better than waffles because they're beautiful flat surfaces. You butter, and you syrup, and you can cut them up into nice little triangles. It's excellent. I love my pancakes. Also, I have like a secret recipe for pancakes. That's why they're just so. Like I said, back to this. You need to embrace what they say so that you can either agree, disagree, or do a mixture of both in order to show us what you say, what I say. So I included in here some templates that may help breaking down your agreements and or disagreements. Here's the deal with agreeing and disagreeing before I get into the templates. When you agree with something, it's not as easy as just being like, oh yeah, I agree with Mr. Kerr, pancakes are better. Why? You still have to have that explanation of why there is that thing that you believe, that agreement that you have with me. Now, if you disagree, you equally need to have some sort of claim about an explanation about why you disagree with whatever assertion you are making, with whatever prompt you are trying to answer. And then how do you do both? That then becomes a bit trickier. Let's look at the templates to break these down. So you see disagreeing with reasons and agreeing with a difference. So you explain why, but then you also say X is surely right about blank because as he or she may not be aware, recent studies have shown that blank. Or X's theory of blank is extremely useful because it sheds insight on the difficult problem of blank. So you are agreeing, but then you are tweaking it a little bit to show that you have actually studied or that you know something a little bit different than what the person who's making that original statement is saying. So you're agreeing with a difference. I agree that blank, a point that needs emphasizing since so many people believe blank. You're adding to the conversation. Whereas with disagreeing, you need to give reasons for why you disagree. But let's look at these 4 templates down at the bottom of agreeing and disagreeing simultaneously. So although I agree with X to a point, I cannot accept his or her overall conclusion that blank because of blank. So you are mentioning the point in which you agree with, but you are mentioning that you also have some stipulations, some issues with what they have to say, and then you explain why. So you are taking that idea of agreeing with the difference and including disagreeing with reasons why. Uh, so that's kind of the very basics of the agree-disagree model, and things that I want you to include as part of your thesis. So, um, don't forget in your paper to ask the question of so what. Um, you should always be asking yourself this question as you write, because as you are going about your writing, if you don't have any reasonings behind what it is you're trying to get at, your paper is going to fall flat. The so what question is super duper important to being able to effectively write any argument, because your reader doesn't have a reason to care if you don't explain to them why it's important and what it is you're trying to get them to realize and come to an understanding of. So it's a basic question, but it's not as simple as it sounds. So just keep that in mind as you are writing your paper. And this is a skill that we will continue to work on, but I wanted to make sure I brought it up. And then finally, try your best. I'm excited to see your work. No matter what it looks like, I think you all have great things to say, and I'm looking forward to you putting your thoughts down on a virtual paper and turning that into me. All right, we'll talk soon. I'm excited to see your work. See you all in class later.